Hello, welcome to this summary report of the electrical usage at our property in Huntingdonshire, England for the calendar year 2023. More detailed information on the components which make up the system, shown here in outline form, is given in the description below the video. The graph shows the electrical input from our two solar arrays and from the grid for each month of 2023. The data comes from the aggregation of the daily readings of the electricity meter and the two solar generation meters. We currently have an economy 7 supply, and throughout the year one of our main aims is to use as few normal rate units as possible. In the winter months, the Powerwalls are charged at low rate overnight and enable us to get through the 17-hour normal rate period without drawing any more from the grid. Up to November, with just one Powerwall, there were rare occasions when the battery ran down completely, but the arrival of a second Powerwall has meant that that is unlikely to happen in the future. The annex flat above our garage is heated by two storage heaters, which can each take over 20 grid units each night during the 7-hour low rate period, but both are switched on only when the weather is very cold. Neither is on for around 7 or 8 months of the year. They account for a large proportion of grid usage during the winter, and the cost is covered by the rent paid by the tenant. Our battery electric vehicle is also charged from the grid when necessary during the low rate period. In the summer months, the Powerwall was sometimes boosted overnight with grid energy when the next day was forecast to be cloudy, but was mostly recharged by solar. The top priority for solar energy was providing power to the property, then secondly to charge the Powerwall. When the Powerwall was full, excess solar energy was diverted into the car via the Zappy charger. We aim to use as much of our generated energy as we can. Here are the figures for the year, though there is a small discrepancy between those coming from the meters and those coming from the Tesla app. During the year we generated 6,275 units of solar energy according to the generation meters, although the Tesla system measurement was 6,077, a difference of 3.1%. Both figures are around 500 units less than 2022. We imported 5,720 grid units, with 58 of those being at normal rate. The Tesla system measured this as 5,748 units, 0.5% more. The total electrical energy input was therefore 11,995 units, higher than the 2022 total of 11,267. The Tesla figure was 1.4% lower at 11,826. The Tesla app says that 445 units of excess solar were exported to the grid, which was 7.3% of the solar energy input, a reduction from last year's 617 units. 1,744 units were used by the Zappy car charger. 3,497 units went into the Powerwall and 3,075 came back out, a round-trip efficiency of 88%. These three figures are all very similar to 2022. That leaves 9,216 units used by our house, the annex and the swimming pool, up from 2022's 7,958. Here's a roundup of our energy costs for the year, though the situation for other properties and their owners will be different, sometimes markedly so. We started 2023 still on a long-term fixed tariff, paying 19.94 pence including VAT for each normal rate unit and 9.77 pence for each low rate unit. From the 1st of March, we went on to EDF's standard variable economy 7 tariff, so there were 4 changes in prices through the rest of the year. Fortunately, the low rate units didn't vary much in price and were, in fact, cheaper than they had been during the 2-year fixed rate period. The daily standing charge increased steadily, while the normal rate units more than doubled. But we didn't use many of those thanks to our Powerwall. Our total electricity bill was just over £664, £120 more than 2022. We don't have gas in the village and our heating comes from an oil boiler. We topped up the tank twice for a total cost just over £666, well down on the previous year's £1,100. Our total energy cost for the year for a 5-bedroom house, a studio flat annex and a fully electric car was about £1,331. Being well past pension age, we benefited from 2 augmented pensioner winter fuel payments in December, as well as energy bill support scheme payments at the beginning of the year, a grand total of £901. Our net energy cost for 2023 has therefore ended up at around £430, which is less than 2022. We have been trying to get a smart meter fitted through EDF, but engineers capable of installing a 3-phase smart meter seem to be few and far between. Perhaps there's more to it than just inserting 8 cables rather than 4. An appointment for the 21st of December was cancelled by EDF on the 14th, and I've been waiting ever since to be given a new date. This has meant that we are still not able to move on to one of the many smart EV tariffs now available. To make matters worse, from the 1st of January, EDF has almost doubled the cost of its Economy 7 low-rate units from 8-point-something to 16-point-something pence per unit. And they still send me a weekly email and a fortnightly text suggesting that I get a smart meter. I use increasingly flowery language in my replies to customer services. Next is a small section on our very comfortable but energy-hungry electric car, which is now 5.5 years old. These figures are for the energy which went through the Zappi. 909 solar units and 835 grid units were used in home charging at a cost of around £72. 240 units were used in charging away from home at a total cost of £48.62. That's a total of 1,983 kilowatt hours, costing just under £120. We only drove 3,649 miles in 2023 at an average fuel cost per mile of 3.3 pence. The full service, which the car requires every 2 years, cost just over £260. The car says that it has done an average of around 2.5 miles for each kilowatt hour that has come out of the battery, but these figures show that it has only done 1.84 miles per kilowatt hour that was used in charging. Finally, here are some figures for what I call long-term investment costs and revenue. When we had our 16-panel 4 kilowatt Southwest system installed way back in October 2011, a couple of months after moving in, the cost was around a hefty £14,000. However, getting the installation done just before the reduction in feed-in tariff payments made it look worthwhile, according to my rough calculations. Although recent years have of course reminded us that we can't predict what will happen in the future. We received £750 back for referrals when 3 of our friends used the same company, giving a net cost of around £13,250. When the total of the feed-in tariff payments had passed that initial costs, we decided to make a further investment by getting a home battery and opted for the Tesla Powerwall2 with backup gateway in early 2020. We had to get some solar panels installed at the same time in order to pay only 5% VAT, so a 10-panel 3 kilowatt system was put on our steep southeast-facing garage roof. The total cost, including the installation, was £12,900. In early November, our local installer mentioned that he had some Powerwalls available, and we decided to add a second, but couldn't justify a third, to make our current situation more secure, and with plans starting to form about what to do when our oil boiler gets towards the end of its life, though it is in very good health at the moment for a 15-year-old. Including the full 20% VAT, the cost of the second Powerwall with installation was £7,800. Against this total investment of £33,950, we have so far received feed-in tariff payments of £22,257. At a very simplified level of accounting, ignoring inflation and everything, that means we now have about £11,700 to be recovered, which will take approximately 5 more years of feed-in tariff payments. We are now about halfway through the 25 years of FIT payments. We don't know what the future will hold, but we are very happy with the investments which we have made so far, though someone starting off today would face a very different situation and have more options, and which perhaps makes decision making more complicated. That's all for now, As mentioned in my report for December, my monthly reports from now on will contain much less narration, but will continue to show the same graphs as before. You're welcome to come back in early February if you are interested in that sort of detail.